New spin on the ongoing number saga as web shop operators have their day in court. More coming up.
A car takes a strange diversion, but who is driving?
And police hear the fears of a community as they conduct an inner-city walkabout today. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Web shop operators score a small victory in the first phase of what could be shaping up to be an intense court battle. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Candino Knowles. Well, just hours after the government ordered their shutdown, web shop businesses have lived to see another day. Today, the Supreme Court ordered an injunction preventing the prosecution of operators. Our Fern Carey has details of the ruling.
The legal battle involving web operators is all about protecting their rights, according to their attorney Wayne Monroe. And he contends that web gaming is legal, and he's asking the court to prevent authorities from shutting them down. And Monroe did not take long to sway the court. He emerged a short time later with an injunction allowing web shops to remain open and conduct business as usual, without interference from the police, the government, the Ministry of Tourism, or the Attorney General.
According to the jurisprudence in the case, there's a triable issue. The court didn't have to decide whether we were going to succeed, but simply whether there was a triable issue and whether the balance of convenience favored the grant of the injunction. Bearing in mind that businesses would be disrupted, third parties like workers, creditors, trade persons would be disrupted, and there would be no prejudice really to the respondents. The judge determined to grant the injunction.
Monroe represents 6 major web shop groups. Former Attorney General Alfred Sayers represents Paradise Game. The web shops were, among others, forced to close Wednesday night after the government ordered them to do so immediately or face arrest and prosecution.
And the problem that we have in the Bahamas is people tend to ascribe all power to one arm of the government, and generally that's the executive government. The courts have their place, the executive has its place, and the legislature has its place. We're contesting what the legislature did in the act and asking for the consideration of what the act does. We came here today to enjoin the action of the executive. So in a way, the reason that we could say to the court that we require this injunction is because the Prime Minister made it plain he was going to soldier on.
Monroe described the court victory this way.
One must feel a degree of satisfaction that the people, the human beings who work in these establishments can have some peace of mind. I'm understanding that absenteeism had been up because people were just quite frankly afraid. A lot of times in this country we're not very Christian in thinking about other people and what is happening and affecting other people. Being your brother's keeper does not mean putting your foot on his neck and pressing down. Does not mean putting him out of a job.
Now the case has been transferred to Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett. At that time, Monroe will argue his case. A date has not been set for that hearing. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Now, web shops were open for business as usual today, supported by that Supreme Court injunction. Patrons of many of the establishments were seen entering and leaving throughout the day, and at least one that we entered on Collins Avenue was packed, although our cameras weren't allowed inside. As we sat outside, an armored truck pulled up at an FML location in the Grove and appeared to be making a pickup or drop-off. The patrons we approached declined to comment. In fact, they tried their best to avert our cameras.
Meantime, those pastors who vigorously oppose the gaming referendum are weighing in on today's court decision to allow the web shops to remain open.
That's right. Andrew Knowles spoke with members of the Save Our Bahamas Committee and some Bahamians to get feedback on the dramatic events of the last 24 hours. Andrew, what can you tell us?
Well, members of the Vote No committee say they're not shocked about the latest turn of events. In fact, the group maintains full confidence that the Prime Minister will honor his word that the government will be guided by the results of the referendum, which was a unanimous no.
Well, I can't say that we're surprised. From the onset of this campaign, when the questions were being presented to the Bahamian people, we were one of the persons that really raised some concerns about the wording of the questions. And so we always recognize that the other side, depending upon the outcome of the referendum, may have exercised their right to make some challenges. So we're totally not surprised as to what's happening.
And so far, Vote No spokesman Kevin Harris says the Save Our Bahamas committee is satisfied Prime Minister Perry Christie held to his word. But the way he sees it, it's a whole new ballgame now.
It is in the hands of the government and the Attorney General truly to represent the people, because the people have spoken. The people gave the government the answer to the questions that were posed, a resounding no, and so it's now up to the Attorney General to ensure that a viable, vigorous defense is put in on behalf of all of the voters in this country.
Web shop bosses said if the result of the referendum was a no, they would shut down their operations. But Harris believes this latest move shows they can't be held to their word.
If they had won the referendum, would we be here today? Perhaps they would have found nothing wrong with the process, nothing wrong with the wording. They may have been satisfied that if the Bahamian people had voted in large numbers for them and have given them a yes, they would have gone on into the sunset and perhaps done what they wanted to do. But because the people of this country arrested the idea in its tracks and said, wait a minute, we don't like this, we're going to give a no to it. Now they feel as if they have their rights to do what they want. Well, certainly we live in a free country, a democratic country. They have the right to go to the courts and do as they see fit.
Meantime, Bahamians also weighed in on the controversy today.
When you really look at it, this gambling tearing into the fabric of this very nation that we live in, it's a sin and it's wrong.
But what do you think about the courts today now ruling that they could remain open?
Well, it's technicalities, man. The number of people, they have this money and they just go into the loopholes of the law. They letting their lawyers work for them. So as that case could run on for 5-6 years. That means gambling houses could be open for 5-6 years until that case over.
The Prime Minister is doing the right thing. If the people have indicated that is a no, then he has a right, based on the referendum, the result of the referendum, to say exactly how it has to go.
I felt bad that it came to that, but now I feel better. I feel better that the court took the turn that it took. So I happy now. I hope it continue in the positive direction.
Meantime, Save Our Bahamas says this latest event won't overshadow their win. In fact, the group is planning to hold a celebration on Monday in Rawson Square. They're inviting all Bahamians to come out and take part. Back to you, Keishla.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. Well, an outspoken pastor who was in favor of legalizing gambling is today calling for the closure of all casinos in the country. Reverend Dr. Philip McPhee says since the vote is no, it would be hypocritical for the country to continue benefiting from casinos owned by foreigners.
The obscure of gambling houses over the hill, by extension, means that casino on Paradise Island and everywhere in the Bahamas should also be closed and their employees be treated the same way as those who work in web houses. Obviously, this is not what we want to see happen, but it is the natural outcome of what voters clearly indicated on Monday. Casino in Baintown or web shops in Baintown has the same effect as gambling on Paradise Island.
Now, meantime, Dr. McPhee says he's happy with the latest turn of events, adding that today's ruling will allow web shops to remain open and keep hundreds of workers employed for the time being. He, along with up to 30 pastors, gathered at his church last evening to devise a plan of action to assist those workers.
We came up with certain recommendations that we have already prepared, and one of them was a register in all of our churches to those members of the web company to register, give us names, and we will seek up and try our best to ask corporate Bahamas to come to their aid as quick as possible. We're very glad that that has not really came to be the final point because of the injunction. But we will continue our efforts just in case the church is called upon to assist in whatever way possible to assure that we don't have one additional unemployed person in the Bahamas.
We'll first look at whether we have a cold front that is nearing our shores, but outside of our studios, we have just a few clouds floating around, temperature around 74 degrees, relative humidity quite rich at 83%, south-southeast winds at 12 knots, barometric pressure 1,016.0 millibars, it's 30.00 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, we still have Family Island temperatures, travel and boating forecast still to come.
Still to come, BEC, a hot topic in the House today. What's the chairman doing to cut costs? Find out coming up.